Now, let me tell you the dealio with Uncle Tammy. Tammy claims that dark skinned men, unlike dark skinned women, have gotten over the whole colorism or shadeism thing and have accepted their darker skin, although supposedly dark skinned women have not. However, when I listen to Tammy and the shit he says in his vids, especially this one, and considering how much he harps on dark skin versus light skin, I don't believe that this is really the truth, at least not with Tammy. Tammy abhors his dark skin, okay? And he's deflecting what he actually feels about himself onto dark skinned females. See, it's a coping mechanism for him. It's his way of detaching himself from his dark skin or trying to get people to not notice that he is also very dark skinned. Like I've shared with y'all in my vids, my experience of moving to the suburbs as a preteen, and there was like only one other black boy in my classroom, and he would like terribly tease me with his white friends, calling me black ass. You know, that was the nickname he gave me. You know, I walk by and he'd be like, look, there go black ass right there. And you see, when you're in a primarily white social setting as kids, black males, you know, they can find a way to fit in. You know, they play on the fears of that whites may have of black males. And see, you can become cool when you're feared. Either that or they play on the charisma, you know, being a jester or jokester for the white crowd. Now, I had just moved out there and I'm trying to unite with the closest person I could relate to culturally, now living around all these white folks who I didn't feel I fit in with, you know, and coming straight from like Chicago. And I'm thinking that I would have like an automatic connection with the one black guy in the class, and come to find out he ends up being the one treating me with the most prejudice. And I'm sure there are many blacks who shared the same experience, you know, moving to the burbs. I'm glad, you know, we didn't live there too long, but you see, this is how he was able to find acceptance with this white crowd. He had to become a white supremacist, if you will, against his own people. You see, this is also how the Irish were able to finally be seen as white people, you know? Although dude could never, of course, be seen as white. But do y'all honestly think that it was just about the Irish pulling themselves up by the bootstrap? See, to take the heat off of himself as the black sheep in the classroom, he had to point out the other black sheep in the classroom. And he could not show himself as being united with me in any way, just as the Irish, they took on positions as overseers, black slave overseers, and later officers. And they made sure that when they formed labor unions, they would allow no Negroes to join them because they no longer wanted to be seen as Negroes, white Negroes. They wanted to be seen as white people, as one of the white brethren. And look at Mr. O'Reilly today, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, top spokesperson for white folks today. And see, this is what I'm seeing Tommy do, just as that boy in my classroom did. And don't tell me that colorism isn't still an issue with the brothers. You know, because I've noticed that many brothers that are dark like Tommy, they'll go for the lightest of females, the lightest, brightest of females. Because it's obvious that they don't want to see a reflection of themselves. They want that contrast when they're laying next to each other, you know. And they don't want their children to reflect them, you know. So they think that they can say that this is just black women with the self-hate issues because the women in our race, we're the ones that are guilty of purchasing hair weaves and getting blue contacts, and we are the ones, supposedly the only ones bleaching our skin. Although I believe all of that is an exaggeration on black women bleaching their skin. You know, at least speaking for black females in America. But you see, the black male, he doesn't need to purchase a white woman's hair when he can just get the white woman. See, in getting the white woman or non-black woman, you now have the entire scalp straight hair, you have the light skin, you have blue eyes, you now possess that by just getting a white woman, the real deal. See, you've gone beyond just wearing a white woman's detached hair. The white woman has become your scarf or your coat. You have become one with the white woman. And an extra is that she will bear your seed. The white man's seed will bear your seed. You see, you cannot claim that dark brothers have came to an acceptance of their darkest skin when the mates they choose to put in their videos, etc. I mean, they hardly reflect them. Like, I want my child to reflect me. I mean, not to discredit my daughter's father, but if someone refers to my child as pretty, I'd love to believe that I have something to do with that. I'd hate the idea that people think that the reason my child is beautiful has nothing to do with me. Just because men may not be sporting weaves, although I kind of wonder if Tommy deep down wants to, because how many brothers will go this far, and making their point about weaves looking ridiculous. I mean, when you go as far as basically putting on a dress, is that really necessary? I mean, so you got to kind of wonder about that. But anyways, see, they may not be sporting the weaves, but I believe that it can be, their issues of self-hate, it can be much greater than the issues with women. You may not go after, let's say, the white man's hair, but when you are continuously calling yourselves, naming yourselves after white Italian man Gotti, and you want to live in his neighborhood, you want to drive his car, you want to wear his label, Gucci, Calvin Klein, whatever, when you want his woman, his ultimate creation, his woman, I think that's something that's a little more serious. You cannot talk about how you hate weaves and love natural hair, but you are not with a natural hair woman if this is not what females see men seeking. So that is really what that is more about. I don't think it is as much about, oh, I hate being black. I mean, Sister Soldier, if you remember, she had a straight side ponytail. But if you look at her resume and what she has done for her people, and you know what I'm saying, come on. But anyways, like I said, I believe that the issues of self-hate, it can be much greater in men. Like with women, it usually just doesn't go beyond hair and complexion, things to do with vanity. But I think it can go a little more serious, because these females still want black men. That's why a lot of times they want to look the way they look, because they want to attract black men in most of the cases. Of course, you're going to find those examples, but I'm talking in most of the cases. Females that wear weaves and all that, they usually want black men. But you cannot say that that's the same case for brothers like Uncle Tommy. Tommy. But see, I do realize that they are only representatives of themselves, and brothers who still suffer from issues of self-hate. They're representatives of parents and loved ones who didn't instill any sort of self-love within them. Like that boy that was in the suburbs with me. He, you could tell. I think I learned that his family may have been from Africa, but obviously he had been out there living in the burbs around them white people longer than me, but he didn't quite have an accent, so he couldn't have been out there too long. He didn't necessarily have like a white or suburban accent. I can imagine like his parents just loving the idea of him bringing home a white female, giving them beige grandbabies. I know a lot of people like that. It's sad to say. And you see, there are those who see Tammy as being unattractive, and he probably was referred to as unattractive growing up. And he was also more than likely pointed out that he was black, that he was dark skinned. So he instantly associate him being black with him being ugly. And there are a lot of us who probably attach blackness with ugliness. I mean, think of Biggie Smalls' lyrics. heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever. However, you know, why does it have to be black and ugly? You know what I'm saying? But you know, he can whine about being teased and all. And I noticed in the video, he goes on and talk about how he was called black and this and that, and, you know, taking the focus away. He don't want no one showing any sort of sympathy, pity, or empathy for this black female, but he wants you to pay attention to what he's went through. But how come I'm not attacking blacks? You know, I was teased for having like really big lips and stuff, you know, by black people. I was teased by black guys when I consider what I went through in the suburbs. And no, I can't say that I can exactly relate to, let's say, what my darker sister may have experienced, but considering that I was in the suburbs around white people, and it was this black kid that was reminding me that I was black, as if it was something bad being black ass. I definitely experienced racism. Definitely. I definitely know what it's like to be put down for having black features. I definitely, you know, although I'm not going to, you know, pity myself or anything like that or try to compare what I've been through. I'm just saying that I have experienced having the nose I have, the lips I have, hair, let's say not as long as my cousins, or nappy hair. You know, I do know, I can't say that I have experienced being teased for having Africoid features. But why don't I feel the need to put down black men making videos? And, you know, how come I'm not scorned like that? You know, I grew up under 4 brothers, and you're going to be teased by brothers. You know, how come I don't feel this scorn? But anyways, Tommy, he represents himself and those like him. Okay, because you don't see that self-hate within dark-skinned brothers who have been raised with more some sort of dignity and self-awareness, or just brothers, you know, who got it going on. It ain't about how dark they is. I mean, you know, if you fine, you fine. If you fly, you fly. Brothers who know they got it going on, brothers with confidence, brothers with some sort of self-education and awareness of themselves as black men. They don't have them hang-ups and issues. You don't see them dissing females. Have you noticed that the males that have made the most sexist songs dissing females are usually the most unattractive males? And I ain't got nothing to do with them being black now. I ain't got shit to do with that. You do not see, you know, attractive or just confident men, you know, even if they do have some sexist lyrics, you know, the most sexist and insulting rappers that put down females, they are usually very unattractive. Okay? Because we know what it's about. It's about insecurities. So I can't really hear his whining. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what he has experienced. We all have experienced that. I mean, definitely as black people, as dark-skinned females, I'm sure have more horror stories than he have. But you don't see them all up in here making videos talking down against dark-skinned men, black men. You don't see that, so I'm not trying to hear that shit. And Tommy makes claims that the only reason that black men have gotten over, as he claims, gotten over having dark skin and black women now accept their dark skin is because now dark skinned men are making money. We accept Wesley Snipes or see him as fine because he's rich. That's what he claims. He's speaking for me. I'm a woman. You know, I found Wesley Snipes to be very sexy when I saw him in Mo Better Blues, and I wasn't even thinking about his money, but, you know, he's speaking for me as a woman. But that just goes to show how low his self-esteem is. But I'm going to get more into this. I have to cut my video thanks to me being punished by YouTube for going after Tommy. And my upload time was cut down to 15 minutes. So I'm going to have to get back to, because I got more that I want to discuss on this, because there's a lot of hypocrites that need to be called out. But I'll be back.